Bad at this.
There
No,
it is.
we're not.
There we
There
go.
it is.
Welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name's Matt Hopkins, sitting in for Ben Stoeger today. Today we have Tim Myers on the podcast, Nick Yanatola, and a special guest, Chris Palmer, former Area 6 director, co-owner of Atlanta 3 Gun, right?
That's right, yeah.
And then co-owner of, what is it? Lawson Palmer.
Lawson Palmer, yep.
All right. If anybody doesn't know who Chris Palmer is, just introduce yourself to everybody, kind of give a brief description of like what you do and all that.
You want me to introduce him or them?
You, Chris.
Oh, okay. Chris Palmer, again, like as Matt said, I own, or I'm part owner in Atlanta 3 Gun, and we're basically what I'd like to call a non-denominational shooting production or shooting match production company. We produce matches, everything from our monthly 3 Gun Nation match to we also own a USPSA match, and we have produced the First Ladies 3 Gun match that happened 2 years ago. We also produced, which Matt, you were there, the Pro-Am, the last 2 Pro-Am matches in Atlanta. We're based just south of Atlanta at Riverbend Gun Club, and that's the Atlanta 3 Gun side. On the Lawson Palmer side, we saw a need in the shooting market for really kind of a different way to do things. It seemed like, I went to SHOT, and it seemed like it was kind of like the Wild West. A couple years ago, you could, if you were a kid, you could roll up and walk out with 6 guns, all kinds of sponsors and everything else, and then life changes and things go by, and we realized that there wasn't a really good way to actually show ROI. There wasn't a good way to show companies where the value was in sponsoring shooters. So, this idea started percolating, and then I met an amazing woman named Clover Lawson, and we had some like-minded ideas, and literally it was about a 15-minute conversation when I first met her at SHOT face-to-face, and we decided, yeah, this is something we need to do, and basically not only provide an avenue for shooters to connect with companies on a more effective basis, but also give companies a way to get with shooters that they could trust to be good brand ambassadors, to behave themselves on and off the range. Shooting sports, unfortunately, is kind of a small community right now, but it is growing, and as it grows, we saw potential PR concerns coming up from companies who are sponsoring shooters because there's been a lot of drama and lots of little scandals and stuff happening, and I call it the Jerry Maguire moment, which is a little bit strange, but I kind of thought about, wow, what about applying an actual formal code of conduct to sponsor shooters and saying, hey guys, there are some expectations of you in return for people, for companies and people investing time and money in your future, in your career. No different than if you were hired, if you were NASCAR, if you were a cyclist, if you were everything else. I also took a look, and Matt, again, I'm reprising this because we've talked about this, but it got me to thinking about shooting and competitive shooting in more of a holistic perspective. I think, if you look at, let's talk about cycling or tennis, okay? All these other things, would we consider them hobbies or sports? Well, I would venture to say we'd consider them sports that people also do as a hobby. Well, the issue with practical shooting is almost everybody started doing it as a hobby, and we're having a transitionary kind of period right now where it's actually converting into a sport, which is where I think some of the arguments or discussions, arguments may be strong, but how about strong discussions, have come on this podcast as well about topics like volunteerism versus for-profit, not for-profit, et cetera, and how's our world changing so that companies can measure their value to continue to do these things, and shooters can be held accountable and have something to shoot for. So I prefer, instead of looking at shooting competition shooting as a hobby that people are doing as a sport, we decided let's flip that and make it a sport that people also do as a hobby. There's a place, if you get it from that perspective, there's a place for everybody. So Lawson Palmer was formed, and we do three basic things. We take in small company and innovators who want to bring a product to market. We consult with them. We help them do the marketing, do the development of the product, and then take it to market for them. We also do consult with companies on sponsoring shooters, which dovetails into a kind of a smaller part of our business, which is actually representing shooters. So for all intents and purposes, we have a select group of shooters that we are their front, for lack of a better word, they're agents, they're sports agents. And what it is, these are people that, like you, like all of you, don't do this full time. So they may be accountants, they may be police officers, they may be whatever. We go in and we help them talk to companies and sort of negotiate what's a fair deal for everybody, because they have no clue.
So I just want to point out that Hopkins kind of does this full time. We'll throw that in there.
No, I know. Yeah, I know.
20 majors a year is full time.
Yeah. Not to mention, I heard he actually hand builds every CZ produced.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'd like you to expand on the more individual part of it, like the representation. Like, I think, like, how would somebody, like, say a shooter that's super squad level, go to and like look for sponsors? Would they seek you out, or would you seek them out, or how would that kind of work?
It's early days.
Yeah.
This company's pretty new. The people that we've talked to are people that I've been around a few years, not the 30, 40 years that some of my colleagues and stuff have been around and shooting and stuff. Honestly, I'm a pretty crap shooter. Because I hardly get to shoot anymore because I'm too busy throwing matches. But I really enjoy it. So, but I know, like, Savigny lives here in town, and Casey and all these guys live in town through matches and stuff, and having RO'd at the national level for years. I've met a bunch of guys there. So there, a lot of it from the beginning started out as a personal outreach to people that we knew and let them know, and actually asking them what they thought about the concept. Well, some of them were like, yeah, that's pretty cool. How do we get on board? Mm-hmm. We've also, since the word has kind of gotten out that this is what we're doing, we've had a lot of people actually approach us as well. Well, Super Squad is one thing, but when if people think they're getting something for free, all of a sudden emails were you got 100,000 people or well, okay, maybe 5,000 people emailing you going, hey, can you? They think it's we can coordinate free sponsorship. It doesn't work that way. It's There have to be it's attitude and aptitude. Okay, there are people who are great shooters and are just complete jerks. Okay, there are people who are great shooters who are notorious for blowing up, on a stage if they get mad or they did something wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's also so I'd look at one of those people and go, you know what? From an ethical perspective, I'm not sure I can actually represent you, because I don't know that you're going to not make your sponsors look bad. And there's going to come a point, I think, and there's going to be a paradigm shift where, and it's coming, it really is coming, where companies are really going to start looking at evaluating people, how they behave on social media, what they say on Facebook, what they say on Twitter. I personally know of a solid handful of people that have lost major sponsorships because they dropped the F-bomb or the C word or some other stupid junk on this. Yeah, come on, you know that word, commander. And they've said that stuff online, and so that's kind of where. When we wrote up the code of conduct, we looked at all those things, and we looked at what the NCAA does and what some of the pro teams do and what they have pro athletes sign in terms of just behavior, because there have to be consequences for being a dick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And rule number one is always don't be a dick. If you lose gracefully, because people are going to remember that, and your gun breaks or something, your sponsors are going to remember that you reacted well, that you were a good sportsman, and that you didn't throw a hissy fit and start throwing stuff. The converse of that is, if you do throw a hissy fit and start throwing stuff, they will absolutely remember it, because they get blazed on duty everywhere else.
I think the other question is, I think I asked about super squad top 16 level.
Yeah.
Do people have to be that
No.
good, I guess?
No. The flip side to that was a two-part answer. So the first part is, if you're great, don't be a dick. The other side of that is, if you're an awesome brand ambassador and you've got personality, we look at folks, and there are guys that we represent that are in the huge middle class of shooting.
Yeah.
But they're awesome brand ambassadors. They communicate super efficiently, totally professionally on social media and on their websites and so on. And they behave a way a professional should behave. So it really comes down to, there's two variables: attitude and aptitude.
Mm-hmm. And
attitude is a huge one.
Would you say it's more important than aptitude, I guess?
Honestly, Matt, I think it depends on where you are in the spectrum of shooters. I believe they're about a 50-50. It's got to be a good balance.
Okay.
But I don't think you should sacrifice attitude for aptitude, because there's 16 top players in the game. I mean, the search for money. I think the search for funding and Tim, I think you talked about 3-gun and these big matches and purses. Some of these guys, the pros in 3-gun, I've done the numbers with them, and a team of 3 can spend $100,000 a year.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, but I don't understand how that makes sense long term. I mean, you have a company like Benelli who sponsors a sizable team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're probably giving away 5 to 10 guns across all these 3-gun matches. I mean, somebody's got to prove to them that makes financial sense, right, long term.
Of course, yeah, and that's part of the kind of the work that we do with these guys, especially with the companies, is showing them what the ROI is. We also do, part of our services to the companies when we work with them is social media management, which is not only giving them a plan of how to engage the social media in an effective way, but also providing them with metrics in terms of clicks, click-throughs, some of the other technical aspects that can show them, at least to some perspective, that we're driving traffic to the website. Because if we can get them to the website, then it's on them. Okay, if you're working with us, let's say Benelli is working with us, and they go, okay, we want you guys to improve our social media presence. Well, we know where you are today. Here's the stake in the ground. Well, if we improve your clicks and click-throughs to the website by 1 million views a year, but you're not selling any more guns,
doesn't matter.
It's not our fault. We've done everything you paid us to do. You're not closing the deal, which means you got to look elsewhere and see, okay, where in our sales chain are things breaking down? You mentioned, there's two basic types. Let's just talk about 3-gun for a second. There's 2 basic types. There's the outlaw style, and then there's obviously 3-gun nation style.
3-gun nation makes more sense to me because you're getting the TV coverage, and they have their own media behind that. So there's a bonus, an added value, right?
Well, I part of some of the work that I've done with Rob Romero, who's the match director for the TV show, and he also he sort of helped give us advice and stuff when we started the match here in Atlanta. One of the things I've worked with them on is to help craft a classification system. Also an RO, kind of a structured RO program, because they didn't have it before. So you had all these different outlaw rules and people who were used to shooting outlaw who were coming into a structured environment, just like you. I mean, think about it, just like USPSA. They're coming into a structured environment, and it was still outlaw. The rules were confused. You know, they thought things were allowed that weren't, et cetera, et cetera. So I've worked pretty closely with those guys and their ownership to try and kind of put some guardrails around it, and sort of funnel them down a path of predictability. You know in USPSA, you know what the rules are, what the penalties are. There's no real question. I mean, honestly, how many times does a range master get called, right?
Well, you know, anywhere in the country also that you attend a USPSA match, it's going to be run in a box, and you're not going to have any, or shouldn't have very much strain from that, so you know what to expect.
Correct.
I think that's one of the big turnoffs for 3-gun.
Well, at least for outlaw 3-gun, right?
Well, outlaw 3-gun for sure is you have to have multiple setups, and that just increases the cost exponentially.
Yeah, it does. But you know, again, I would say that even within the outlaw and the 3-gun nation formats, there are still two subsets of that, and one is what we call, and I think this is what you're alluding to, Matt. We call it option bay, which is the high-speed, low-drag USPSA style, which are specifically built for pistol clubs to be able to build 360-degree range of fire with 180s and the whole deal in pistol bays. Okay, there are a lot of clubs that don't have a lot of distance and reach for long-distance shots, so that style and that format is perfect for them. There are some regional matches and stuff. There's some in VIR and Virginia and stuff now coming up that do have a component. Even the Area 6 multi-gun match down at Frostproof, they have a range that can accommodate, I think it's 400 yards. So they can include some distance into that. And there's always a jungle run component or something that's more of what we call, you know, open terrain. But yeah, so there are the subsets of, like as you mentioned, you know, bay style and open style.
Do you think that hurts the sport of 3-gun?
No, I think it increases because it gives options and opportunities for ranges that couldn't otherwise hold a 3-gun match. In fact, you can do I know a club in Augusta here close by Atlanta that is a USPSA club, and they also run USPSA multi-gun because they understand the rules, are familiar with it, et cetera, et cetera. And honestly, they're not that different, but so be it. Their choice. But they do it in a bay style format, and there's still plenty of, you know, call it 6 long courses of fire with, you know, anywhere from 1 to 3 guns.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
So while we're on talking about that, I know you got a lot of heat when you were Area 6 director about for-profit and then non-profit matches.
Yeah.
Personally, I think the for-profit is the future, where people will have to pay more money, but you'll actually get more worth out of it also. So, like, if I saw match fees double within the next 5 years, obviously, if there wasn't enough return on that, it'd be a problem. But I think there will be, or there have to be, or they won't exist anymore.
Well, I think what it all boils down to, and you know, you're right. There's been just a ton, even at the board level. When I was on the board, there was quite a lot of discussion about for-profit, not-for-profit, et cetera. And it's not really. I mean, for-profit. Even though we run our matches quote unquote for-profit, you know, I always joke that we're going down to look at our golden Ferraris. That's a, you know, if you spend 3 days out there building rain or shine and you make a couple $100, you're barely making minimum wage. So the for-profit moniker is a little bit weak, in my opinion. Also, anybody that says that USPSA is purely volunteer, and I'll get mail for this, but they're lying to themselves. It's a simple business fact. This all boils down to one word, and that's sustainability. Okay? If you're not making money, if the match isn't making money, you can't buy new props, you can't buy new targets, you can't, you know, we have 13 iPads, okay, that we use scoring with practice score. 2 of them got dropped in one match, broke the screens. Okay, who pays for that? Who pays for the insurance? Who pays for the, it just goes on and on and on. So, I think the notion that it's a purely volunteer sport, yeah, I'll tell you what, here's the reality. Like anything else in the world, 5% of people volunteer to do 95% of the work. That's your volunteerism. And what's going to crush USPSA or anybody that tries to live under that sort of system is going to be that who's going to be the next match director when your current guy burns out? They're not there. Most of these matches, it's understood, most of the matches get a new match director when the other guy leaves. There's no transition process. There's no, hey, you know what, I'm getting ready to retire. I want to do some things. I want to hang out with my kids, whatever it is. I've done this for 3 years. Who's next? There's no transition process to take the next guy, train him up, show him what the do's and don'ts are of, how to avoid some of the typical mistakes that happen when you put a match together, even at the volunteer level. So that's a huge issue for sustainability. And if you're not at least paying the match director and even the designer or something enough for gas money, again, not sustainable.
So you think for-profit's a way to get around that? Well, quote for-profit.
Well, I think it it doesn't take a lot of money to make a huge difference. Okay, and I'll give you a concrete, real-world example of this. Area 6 this year. It's a $200 ticket.
Yeah.
For a huge area match.
Tim actually commented on the entry fee.
Well, I was saying that's approaching 3-gun prices there, right? I mean, I think
Tim, how's that different from 100? What is that really much different than 100 and 180 or 170?
Sure, it is. It's the next $100. It sounds better. Price that thing at $195, and it's not $200. I sell a lot of stuff, man. I'm telling you. I know there's a perception, right?
Sure. No, that's their comment.
Like to me, like if you're gonna charge $200, charge me $225. There's no difference there. Like I've heard people complain about other major matches here that are like $175, and this one's $125. But once you break that $200 price range, that to me is like, because to me 3-gun matches seem crazy expensive. I mean, $250 seems kind of high, I guess. I mean, I've never put on a 3-gun match, so I have really no idea what it costs to put one of those things on. But
Tim, if people are running it, and dude, no offense at all, man, if people are running it like a business, the match will make money. The people don't have to spend a ton of money, and they'll get good prizes. The 3-gun championship this past year, 2015. The entry price was $150. Okay? Through sponsorship and everything else, they had a great day. They had a super fun time. I want to say something like 23% of the shooters walked away with a gun. Those numbers do not exist in the volunteer arena. Right. That percentage.
Another thing that is
that's complete gun.
For Area 6 in particular, I was personally I thought it was ridiculous the amount of junk people were talking about a $200 ticket for that match, especially when you consider the amount of payout that you guys are talking about. Why? I don't understand it, because there's another big match, I would say, of that same caliber coming up pretty soon.
Florida
with a ticket bigger than that, it does not have a payout at all that I'm aware of, or nothing.
Florida Open, or what is it?
Yes, Florida Open. So that's a great match, absolutely outstanding match. Virtually, very little payout. And
what's the price tag?
Why is Area 6 this year getting that much grief? I don't understand that. I really don't.
Honestly, because I think part of it was we challenged the status quo, and we said, you know what, we're going to make, as soon as we get all the revenues in that we're going to get, we're going to make everything open and transparent. You're going to see where the money goes. Now, we all know that's going to start another storm of criticism, I'm sure. But honestly, at the end of the day, I look at it this way: you pay $200 for a match fee. You're going to get a free shirt, free lunch for everybody, all the shooters. You're paying for match shirts for all the staff, of which there'll probably be something like 100 staff. Right now, we're at I just got back from Pensacola, which we'll talk about in a second, but last I checked, we're just shy of 500 people shooting the match. That's huge. That's huge. Now, 100 of those are the staff, so don't start sharpening pencils yet.
All right. So the market's kind of spoken there, and apparently a lot of people like it, right?
Well, that's what I would say to the critics of the price is, if it was a $90 match, we would have sold out in 15 minutes. Well, part of the whole goal of Area 6 was, and it's something I did as an area director, which I don't think a lot of people know, is I pushed through a change in the bylaws that basically governed how the money from area matches was distributed. Because it was very ambiguous. Everybody interpreted that it was that it had to go to the shooters. All the money has to go to the shooters. That's not what the rule said. The rule said that, you know, it could. They suggested. It was really what I thought was this. Okay, if we're going to go back, look at this as a sport, look at USPSA and shooting as a business. How do you make it sustainable by making it self-sustainable? Because right now, before you give all the money away from the area matches, the sections get nothing, which means the section matches now have to start from scratch. The section matches give away everything. Now what happens to the clubs? The clubs have to start from scratch. So what we did, and we made it abundantly clear in our when we started out doing the when we put out the match announcements and everything else, is we declared the percentage of money that was going everywhere. And there's a pretty big part, and again, this kind of fits well to Tim's point. It's about $18 to $20 a shooter that's going to the area fund, which then gets distributed equally amongst all the sections. Now, the way we've calculated it out right now is there's going to be anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 per section that goes to the sections to help bootstrap new clubs with targetry, group buys, ammo, steel, all the things, materials, all the things that sections and clubs and everything need to make that roll. My hope would have been, and I'm not there, but my hope would have been that would trickle down and not only be adopted by the other areas, but also it would trickle down to the section level too, so that they became a fundraising mechanism for the club. Because everything has the club level. If you don't have clubs, you don't have anything else. We might as well just start a TV show and have 16 guys shooting.
That'd be good for the 16 guys, right?
What's that?
That'd be good for the 16 guys, right?
Well, we represent them all, so no.
I got a question for you though. So say 3-gun sponsorship dries up in the form of, like, Benelli's not giving every match 10 guns, and they have to use match funds to buy prizes. Is that going to affect attendance, you think?
It already is. That question is that's the question people should have been asking themselves about a year ago, in my humble opinion. And I was talking to someone, and they illustrated this perfectly. Okay, imagine when 3-gun started, it was very hot. So let's say you group all the money that all these companies, let's say it's 1,000 companies. Let's say that they all kick in $1,000. That's $1 million pool of prizes, right? Well, when it first started and you had all the outlaw formats and these big monster matches, there was $1 million to divvy up amongst 10 matches.
Yeah.
So you had $100,000 prize tables at every match, and they were big, tons of guns and everything else. Well, guess what? The sport takes hold, it catches fire, but companies, they can't. They realistically, because it's and Matt, I don't know, you can speak to this, you're the guy for CZ, but companies can't just go, oh, wait a minute, this sport has grown 30%, 40%, so my 1,000 is now going to go from 1,000 to 40,000, because the ROI is too hard to prove.
It's definitely too hard to prove, and everybody has a budget, and they have to stay within that budget pretty much. So.
Yeah, exactly. So Tim, to your question, It's drying up, and it's not drying up because people aren't sponsoring matches anymore. It's drying up because there's just so many more. You add to those initial 10 matches that got $100,000 apiece. Now you add another 90 matches.
Yeah.
It's a dogfight. It's a dogfight
Yeah.
to get. You have to produce a quality match, and the only way you can produce a quality match is if you have the money to do it with.
So is that a problem for USPSA in your opinion? Because there are so many majors. Because that's kind of the same issue that they've had, where it's
Without a doubt.
yeah. Okay, well then
There's
how is
something-
Area 6 getting such a hefty prize table? How's that happening? Are they buying it with money?
Part of it was purchased, part of it was donated. Most gun companies have a buy 5 get 1 free kind of deal, whatever. We struck a deal with FN, and I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was a combo deal, and it netted us 47 guns from FN.
That's pretty impressive.
So either way, it was fairly substantial. However you slice that up. The other ones are just the other players coming on board. Springfield is talking to us. Akai Custom Guns talking to us, and they're reaching out to us. I mean, they know the thing about Area 6, and it's we all laugh about it. Honestly, I get more grief from the board and the former board than from any of you guys, because they're all like, "Oh, I'm safe. I'm Area 2. I just point them all to you." Great. I asked everyone if they wanted my job. The only one that really stood up was Bruce. Awesome. But no, I see it as a definite problem, and it's something that I know Phil was working hard with sponsors and stuff. It is apples and oranges, though, to be fair, because we have 3 guns.
So 3 times the companies that can do it.
USPSA only has 1.
Yeah.
That people would think that's 3 times the 3 times the gun, 3 times the money, but there's only so many pistol sponsors. Hang on a second. In the black bag, please. So you'll find that a lot of the sponsorship and the sponsorship dollars are actually coming from rifle companies and accessories companies, because ARs are basically it's like Barbies for guys, I mean, and increasingly girls. So hang on, I've got to get my power cord. I apologize.
All right,
Don't ask me another question.
well, along that same line, so whenever you are representing these 3-gun shooters, I mean, I'm assuming you find it much easier to secure some sort of sponsorship because there is so much there, right? With the optics, the rifles, the shotguns, all the accessories to go with it.
There's some validity to that. I mean, shotgun is very difficult because it's only 1 gun, and there's not really that much. There's some innovation. I mean, you get the Terran Tacticals and those guys who basically have locked the market up on shotgun. Roth Innovations, those guys. But beyond that, the rest are kind of more niche players. Pistols, STI huge in the game, Glock huge in the game. But you know what? At the risk of drawing the ire from their lawyers, we don't get a lot of sponsorship from Glock here locally. I think they sponsor some other stuff, but their choice of sports, obviously USPSA. STI is huge in our sport. Glock 34 is huge in our in 3-gun. And then there's a smattering of other stuff, but. The issue I see is, and again, it kind of comes down to how do we drive innovation, how do we drive more interest, because there's only so many things that you can do to a 1911 that haven't been done. So, there's the innovation is slowed down on that because it really comes to more stylistic stuff. Again, my humble opinion.
Well, here's a point on that. Doesn't it make sense to get into markets that they're not like? I hate to bring this up again because everybody else on the podcast hates it, but pistol caliber carbine.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there for it.
Terrible idea.
Well, I'll tell you, no, listen, I'm super happy you mentioned that, because with respect to Nick and Tim, I think pistol caliber carbine is actually going to be one of the mechanisms that drives some more energy into shooting sports. Period. I was a huge advocate on the board for bringing pistol caliber carbine to start it in Steel Challenge because they wouldn't just put it right in as a division for USPSA. We actually at our match we actually run a pistol caliber carbine as kind of a rogue division or wildcat division at our normal matches because you can shoot every target that you can shoot with a pistol caliber carbine, and people have such a gas. Guys, Tim, Nick, if you guys haven't done it,
I've never said I hate pistol caliber carbine. Actually, I actually think it's actually an interesting idea. So.
I got to tell you a story. We had Matt was a guest of ours at the Pro-Am, and he got basically cajoled and jostled into staying, I guess, an extra day or something and trying out and running the whole match with a pistol caliber carbine. And I can't really adequately describe the look on his face when he was coming off the stages, but I think it was probably pretty close to what it looked like the first time he ever shot a gun in competition.
Oh yeah, I was right there listening to him and Paulie talk, listening to their whole spiel about how awesome it was. No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it would make a more interesting USPSA division than a couple of the ones that we have today. So,
I feel about that like Hopkins feels about carry optics. It's like it seems silly.
Now,
in Steel Challenge, it makes sense.
How? Why does it not in USPSA, Tim?
I don't see the point.
I have a question for Chris.
Can't get behind it.
Sure, come on.
All right.
So it seems like every time we talk about this with anyone really, it comes down to kind of a chicken or egg question. It's like, okay, to drive more sponsorship, you need more eyeballs, and to drive more eyeballs, being shooters to the sport, you need more sponsorship. So, to me, I'm going to state how I think that should go down, and you tell me if this makes sense. So. Okay. You have kind of the reaction to the Area 6 price tag this year, and like I said, I've already stated my opinion. I think it's ridiculous, but I think the conception, the way that a lot of shooters look at that is that the vast majority are going to say, unless I have a chance to be, near the top of at least a class, I may not have a really great chance of winning that prize money, so I'm just kicking. $20 or $50 or whatever toward whoever's going to win those prizes, and they're not necessarily wrong, depending on where they are, what their classification is, and whether they're sandbagging in that class or whatever. So to me, it makes more sense to go the other way and say, okay, I want to make this sport more marketable from a pure just spectator perspective. Like I want to make this sport fun to watch, and that's going to draw more people in to the sport because then they see it, it looks like fun, they want to try it. So to me, it's like you kind of have to have the eyeballs first to generate the sponsorship, and to get the eyeballs, you need to have a product that's fun to watch. Does that make sense to you? Or is that
absolutely no, absolutely, yeah. No question. Okay. I think that's why you get Shooting USA, for instance. They're always interested in filming the Pro-Am and the Steel Challenge because. They see that it's dynamic. It's dynamic steel. Stuff falls. It makes noise. It's cool to watch. There's not, it's not. The image translates the story very simply. It's not. You don't have to be a shooter to understand what the heck's going on. I'll point you to, for instance, just to support that fact, the Three Gun Nation series changed from an actual stage-based series, okay, where they actually shot stages, to this shoot-off format. And the reason they went from, which think about this, we all shoot stages.
Yeah.
The pros do a shoot-off, which means they're not representing what everyone else is doing. Now, why is that? It's because
better for TV.
Better for TV, okay? And which is still good because it supports the sport, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is what it is. But to make it. And we're actually working on something we started working on about a year and a half ago, which is trying to make USPSA style matches more visually impressive and solve the problem of the dreaded photo recall. Okay.
Photo recall.
Or video review.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Totally. We could have a whole freaking podcast on that thing. Okay.
Yeah.
But we're working on a project that I think is gonna change how that whole perspective is, because it's going to be fixed format. Everyone's going to get the same view, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you see, the problem with video, as you guys know, the problem with video reviews is that whose video are you reviewing? The guy that was running behind him, or the camera that was over to the left, or whatever? Some guy in the viewing audience, or in the audience behind the stage and stuff. How do you? You're going to look for something that tells a story. In this particular circumstance, what we're trying to do is a tracking system that will basically track everybody the same way. So the review can be made. If they see it, then okay, they can make a decision. If they don't see it, then the decision stands. But at least there's a standardized way to check.
Yeah. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And it's the same. It's the same for everybody.
Right.
Right. So
other sports have attacked this problem and solved it as well as it can be done. I know.
Sure.
You just have to copy that, right?
Yeah. Well, we've got a system we think is going to be actually pretty spectacular. So we'll see this year.
Is that only for
around April?
I have a little question on that.
Is that a hint?
Area 6.
I like it. All right.
Is that going to be just for scoring, or is that like for, I guess, TV also? That's a question I would have around that. Would that be just purely for scoring?
That's an excellent question, Matt.
Do I have to come to Area 6 to find out?
It's entirely possible.
Okay.
Well, you're coming anyway, because
Yeah.
I'm waiting on the sponsor form to come in, but we'll see. See, I just threw that out there. See what I did there? All right.
Yeah.
So, hey, Nick. Nick, so I got a question for you, bud.
All right.
Are you going to shoot Area 6?
Absolutely, man. I'm already squatted.
He's already wondering.
So here's the thing. If you're Matt, do you know where I'm going with this?
No, go ahead.
He's laughing.
Not really.
So you hate it and it's too expensive, but you're shooting.
No, he doesn't. He hates
I
the
don't
backlash.
hate it. I hate the backlash. I don't understand the backlash.
Okay. Fair enough. I misunderstood.
Like that, I will personally pay $50 more to be involved with that kind of prize table 100% of the time at every match.
We've talked, and people talk some crazy stuff like they want, how do we pay people to paste for us? Well,
I'd probably pay another $50 to have somebody paste for me.
Yeah.
That would be the easiest decision I ever made.
Yeah, I know it is, but the problem is it's not supported by the rules, so it's a moot point. But,
what do you mean?
You can't have people paste for you.
Why not?
You can't pay people to paste for you.
Why not?
Because they could. You have a run that's not your best. Throw a delta or a mic. They could inadvertently paste a target and get you a reshoot.
Oh, that can happen without paying anybody.
Exactly. Well, then there'd be an implied intent, and 6.4.4. Who knows? Or 6.4.1.
It's 10.6, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well.
Unsportsmanlike.
Oh, this. Yeah. 6. Yeah.
We've talked about that before. People bring essentially a caddy to a match, and they're not technically paid, but that's what they are. They're
Well, it was a funny story. We had some guys from the Orient come in to do some training, and some of the Philippine national team, and some hotshots from some GMs from IPSC, and they were like, "Where are the Bat Boys?" And we're like, "Bat Boys? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Dude, we pay them $10 a day. They clean our mags after every stage. They reload the mags for us. They massage us, bring us cold water." I'm like, "Yeah, not here, bud." So Did I answer your questions?
Yeah, I think so. Do you have anything else, Nick?
No, not right offhand, I guess.
Tim, you got anything?
I do have just, I
Yeah,
guess,
go
general
ahead.
commentary. So I've mentioned this before, but I've really only been around USPSA for about 2 full years, and it seems to me, like from the moment I got here, it really seems to me that it's on the edge of taking that next step. And we kind of mentioned that at the beginning of the show, that it's kind of on the edge of a pro sport versus a hobbyist sport.
Yep.
And I personally would like to see it take that step and become a pro sport. And I kind of was, when I was deciding who I was going to vote for in the election, I was that's the kind of thing I was looking at. So it's I think it'd be great. I'm really this conversation intrigues me. Companies like yours intrigue me. I think it's great to see the sport move in that direction, and I think it's just looking for that last little bit of leadership to kind of take it there. And I don't know what the answer is, but I'm glad that smart people in the industry are thinking about it and working toward that as a goal.
Are you asking me if I'm running for Area 6 this year? By the way, 3 elections in 1 year?
A little late, I guess, but yeah, on that particular front.
No, there's another election coming up in August or September, right?
Yeah. No, it's everything we went through with the recount and all that was so that the Area 6 seat could be replaced by the third person in one AD tenure. So
that's right.
Hey, kind of a cool story just to throw out to your guys. I had the privilege last night, not to get political, but it was just kind of really, really fun. We got to LMP. This is another thing that we do is we get active in marketing and other stuff. We had the opportunity to my partner Clover Lawson had the opportunity to actually speak to the Trump rally in Pensacola. That's why I was late, so I apologize. It's one of the big passions that I have, and the reason I bring it up is, we do, as I mentioned, we help innovators come out, and these guys are like they've got new ideas or ideas they're changing. One of the I got to show you this. One of the cool things is this product that we came up with. I don't know if you can read that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I think I've seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah. No. But this one is actually, it's completely reformulated and smells like bacon. So we're pretty excited about that, and it was actually launched at the Trump rally in Pensacola, which was pretty cool. One of the things that I'm passionate about and is getting, and I think is a huge target for all of us as shooters, as USPSA or whoever, whatever sport you love, is getting mainstream sponsors. Nick, to answer your question, or sorry, Tim, to address some of the points you brought up, and Nick, it's how do you expand and fill the gap of people who aren't supporting or support less, or they become disillusioned, or so on. You go after people who are more mainstream. Okay, we did a match, as an example. We did a match in December. It was a veterans charity match. Now, of course, veterans helped a lot, but Kenworth Truck Company, Goodyear Tires. We had a NASCAR there, an actual car. Shaquille O'Neal showed up.
What
match is this?
Yeah. Exactly.
I literally don't remember this match at all.
It was the Salute to Valor 3-gun match, which was a charity benefit match for veterans, for 6 veterans.
That's what I get for not paying attention to 3-gun.
So,
what target did you use there?
We actually used a mix of different ones.
Did you use a headed target?
Say again?
Did you use a headed target?
No, we did not, actually.
Was that on purpose?
I'm sorry?
Was that on purpose?
Yes, because we wanted them to come back, because we're doing that match again this year, and we, you know, we all understand and we all agree with the idea that we're not training terrorists and we're not doing all this other stuff. It's just traditionally our target has a head on it.
Right.
But there's an education. What I've discovered is there's an educational process that has to happen with the consumers out there, and especially when I say the consumers, I mean the general populace that don't understand that we scoff at people who get caught with 200 rounds of ammo in their car because we think they're amateurs. Because we might have 500 rounds in the car, right?
Yeah.
Now we're not, you know, and they think that we're the ones shooting up schools and all this other nonsense. It's just simply not true. Our guys, meaning, you know, our compadres, if you will, are going to be the ones that stop those goons. But so it was kind of a deliberate move to sort of soften the blow a little bit and be able to talk to these guys and actually really educate them about what it is that our sport is, why that there's a head on the target, you know, et cetera, and just kind of ease them into the pain, so to speak, versus having them get scared, because these guys ponied up a ton of cash. I mean, I think we you know, we turned over 30 grand or something out of one match that we donated to the veterans. So it's, you know, the support was amazing. Matt, or you guys, I think Nick, you were there. That's right, Nick, you were there too. At the Pro-Am, what food company came to the Pro-Am?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
That right there, in my opinion, didn't more shooting sport did. Because it got, you know, once again, one more step forward for the sport as a whole, getting, you know, because, you know, they went and they told people and they told people and they told people.
So Chick-fil-A donated to that match? That was sponsored?
Chick-fil-A was there.
They were
tent, truck, food, the whole deal.
Okay, but they were paid less than market value for that.
They weren't a sponsor per se, but the fact that they even showed up, in my opinion, was, you know, they gave us reduced cost on the food and stuff like that. And so from that perspective, you know, there was an in-kind sponsorship, which is what I would call it. But to me, the more important message there isn't how much money they spent or didn't spend, is more the fact that they even showed up. You know, people talk about the old days when Budweiser and stuff would show up. I mean, there are people that have been around a lot longer than I have, but I've never seen a Bud truck at a shooting match.
Hey, I have a related question to that.
Sure.
So, what would it take to get, like, say, a Red Bull to sponsor a pro shooter, or an Adidas? I mean, that level of mainstream company.
What would it take?
Why hasn't it happened?
I think it's gonna take time, is what it would take. Because it should, first of all, you're talking about one company where's Red Bull from? Austria or somewhere? And the other
European country, yeah.
And the other one's German. So there's a lot of European influence. I mean, honestly, I think.
Or Nike, right? Let's say Nike.
Or not
Under Armour, right?
Under Armour. Well, they support the Wounded Warrior Project, and Wounded Warrior Project is anti-gun. So what does that mean?
But you know what I'm getting at, though, right? Like, I'm talking.
Yeah. What would it take? You're right.
Mainstream.
What it would take? I mean, I'll give you. It takes dialogue. It takes people actually thinking outside the box. It takes companies like us going out and talking to people and literally educating them. It's going to take some time, Tim. That's
because to me, that's what it's going to take to make it a true professional sport, right? When you have a top-level shooter, I mean, there's not many of them that can make a real income off this without subsidizing it with teaching, right? Like, tell
me anybody that makes. Sorry to interrupt you. Tell me anybody that makes what we would consider a full-time living just shooting a gun.
I mean, I don't know what they make. I assume Rob Latham and Max Michel. I mean, those are only two guys that could...
I think Jesse probably could be put in the list.
Are you talking about without teaching classes as well?
Yeah.
Is that an assumption you're making, Tim?
Without teaching classes.
Without teaching classes.
Just
sponsorship money. That's
competition. Just being paid by a company to shoot.
What about Jerry Mitchell?
You know what? I'll give you that one. But let's face it, with Jerry Michalik, you're actually getting the Michalik dynasty.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
not
Yeah.
just one guy,
The YouTube
so-
channel's probably bringing in 6 figures by itself.
Oh my God, yeah. No, look, and I'm not. Let me be clear on something. I'm not dissing anybody or any shooter whatsoever. The reason my partner and I put this company together was to try and bring shooters into that sort of professional level, not only from behavior but also compensation, etc. Because we all know there's kids coming out right now who are 15 years old that can smoke any of us, except maybe Matt. But
Not me. Nick, dude.
But there's guys, if they don't drop their gun, you're smoked, right? So we've already. I think it's a positive. Or a step in the right direction from the sports perspective that we already have. We're seeing junior shooters getting to a skill level that by the time they're 25, 30, it's going to be ridiculous. The bigger question that leads into the whole maximum hit factor on classifiers, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you could go down that path and go, holy cow, we're going to have to revamp the whole thing. Someone's going to beat Casey. Someone's going to beat Max. It's a matter of time. It's just that's how the world works, right? But I think the kids are important. Women, statistics are showing that women are buying a lot of damn guns, and there's a lot of women who are interested in shooting sports. Now, the percentage is pretty low. The percentage of people like a Jesse, a Lena Michalik, a Kay Michalik, people who have the facilities available to them to practice the time, the effort, the support, and everything they need, the sheer bullet sponsor that they would need, right? Not everybody has that. So I think there's funding issues. It's really more of a complex question than just simply how do we get Adidas to send us something. There's gonna have to be growth. We're gonna have to increase the pool of shooters. There's gonna have to be more visibility. We're gonna have to be. I thought it was a shame when Three Gun Nation, after I think it was Newtown.
Yes.
Three Gun Nation got booted off the NBC Sports Channel.
I think that was a huge hit to them.
Yeah.
Say again?
I think that was a pretty big hit to them. Like it caused some pretty big issues.
Well, the reality in life is perception is reality. Whatever you perceive, if you think Trump is a boob, he's a boob. If you like Matt Hopkins, you like Matt Hopkins. If you don't like Chris Palmer, there's nothing that he'll ever be able to say that'll make you like him. That's okay.
I think it comes. The eyeballs have to come first on the sponsorship. But like you said, it's very precarious for major companies. It's precarious because of the exact kind of thing you're talking about. Newtown happens, Three Gun Nation gets kicked off a major TV network.
Yeah.
So your firm isn't at a place right now where you're ready to go to Pepsi and say, I got this guy Max Michel. Let's get him backed by Monster or something, right? Like,
are you saying are we or we're not?
You don't feel like the industry's at this point where you're comfortable taking a client to Adidas or Nike and trying to get them that deal.
No, I actually completely the opposite. We make calls every week on companies like that to get meetings to try it.
Okay.
Because otherwise, how are you gonna do the educational component that I described? I mean, we're not doing, okay, is we're not sitting back and waiting for an industry beverage executive to decide he wants to try shooting and realize that it's actually safer than high school football.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That his kid plays every weekend. Okay. So no, we're out there talking to these folks at every opportunity. Again, last night was a great example. At the Trump rally, there were obviously industry executives love Trump because of his business and everything else. So we had the opportunity, being in the section we were in, to actually have dialogue with these guys and discuss Second Amendment issues and so on. One of the other things that we're doing is working with two groups, one called the Second Amendment Heritage Foundation, and The other one's 2AO, or Second Amendment, secondamendment.org, I think it's called. And that's Diana Leerdorf Mueller. Okay, so Benelli, going and taking folks up to Washington, meeting the representatives, talking about the value of the Second Amendment, what it is that that the Second Amendment espouses, and why it's important that we keep it intact. So, it's again one more component of a kind of a complicated answer to a simple question. I'm sorry I took more minutes than I should have.
I think it's fine. I think there's a lot of information here.
Yeah.
What
else?
I think you pretty much covered everything I wanted to hit. Do you have anything else, Nick?
No, I'm good.
By the way, the gun count at Area 6 is 53, I think, is the total gun count now.
That's crazy. It's great.
Now, I will tell you that there are people whose names shall remain unspoken who have been pretty happy about 50 guns at a major national level 3-gun match. So, the argument could be made that we're doing okay on that one. I think really the cool thing is the cash component. Again, I would say to everybody, what we're really trying to do here is show that if you run it more like a business and less like a social club, run it more like a professional sport, less like a hobby shop, and not that they are. I don't want to get those calls either. But if we take our sport seriously and we run it as a sport, I think the future is there. It's just going to be a matter of time. And here's $200 for an area match. May seem a little steep, but it's an area match. There's only 8 of them.
Yeah. I think it's great. I would love to see a lot more matches go in that direction.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy, but I wonder if the prize table being so stout is a big enough motivator to have these guys who are used to paying $100 or $125 for a match be okay with it, right?
I think the numbers have spoken for it. They're basically sold out, right?
Yeah, but that's also a giant area. You have to go to an area that's less populated, like an Area 7 or Area 8 to get
something like that. Tim, if you're I get what you're saying. You're absolutely correct. But I think if you look at it from the perspective that I'm approaching this from, you charge what the market will bear.
Mm-hmm.
If Area 7 won't support a $200 match, if we had a $150 match, we'd have 500 people signed up and another 500 that couldn't, and all the Area 6 guys would be complaining because they couldn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it really comes down to different. You have to look at the area, do some analysis, look at the match, and come up with and make good decisions that are gonna be sustainable for the match. That's what it comes down to. The watchword for me is sustainability. If we decide or we get, depending on feedback, and I'm not talking about the 3 loons, but real feedback. If people aren't having fun, then it was a failed experiment. We won't repeat it. If people have a blast, I can't remember who it was. You know what I think, Tim? I think it was you. One of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the benefits that we'll have is you'll get free water.
That's me.
No, that's Hopkins. He's obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But water's crazy cheap. That's like $500 a pallet. It's not that much.
Well, that's exactly right. But you're exactly right. But the thing is that those are the things that add value to the shooter.
Yeah. Hopkins will never come back to your match if you don't have free water.
It's true.
Well, if you have water,
free water is great. You
want more water? Have more water. And actually, it's $300, and you get like 14 cases. So your numbers are a little high, but we do that, and that's one thing we realized early on with the 3-gun matches and stuff that we do. All the matches that we do is the water is always free because it just makes people happy. We don't want them hangry.
less weight you got to carry around. That's a big deal.
Well, sure.
That's what it comes down to.
I was trying to think. There was something else about sponsorship I want to talk about, but
I have one question for you about sponsorship. So, are you seeking out these people to sponsor, or are they coming to you to seek representation?
Yes.
Okay, so both. So say some random B class guy comes to you and is like, "Hey, I want an agent,"
Mm-hmm.
and you're like,
We'll
"Let's do it."
well, we'll look at them for sure.
Okay.
And by the way, I know what I was going to say. We don't just manage 3-gun shooters. We also manage high power shooters. We manage
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
yeah.
The
And we manage. We've talked to some USPSA people, and and honestly, the kings of the hill are the ones that shoot. Basically, they're shooters. They shoot whatever they can.
yeah.
Well, sorry, Matt. What was your question?
I was just going to bring up how you do have like one of the top women in high power, I think, as your client.
Yeah, she's like the woman.
The woman, which is definitely different because I think the whole shooter having an agent thing is so new that the shooting sports don't know what to do with it yet.
That's
don't know how to proceed.
You're exactly right, and I'm glad you brought it up. Annette Wachter actually is her name, and she was our first client, and again, it was a circumstance. It was a conflagration of a lot of different things that ended up with us starting this company, and one of those things was me picking her up for from the airport in Austin for a big clinic she was doing for long distance, and actually talking about sponsorship and because I was interested in actually sponsorship for matches. And the conversation then went to sponsorship for her, and that's when I realized that she's an absolutely gorgeous woman. She's like 6 foot tall, and you better get if you piss her off, you better get about a 1,200 meter head start, because she's got you inside of that with no question. Okay, and that, by the way, guys, just if that's not impressive enough, that's iron sights.
Yeah, is that Palmer? Right?
1,000 yards. Anyway, so we were talking, and I suddenly realized she just wasn't, she wasn't comfortable negotiating her own deals because she's talking about herself. So everyone feels all humble and shy, and they don't want to. Oh, I'm not really that good, and So I'm like, well, hell, I'll talk to them for you, So, and it's not about. Again, the other thing too is it's not about screwing the sponsors. That's absolutely not the case. It's about making sure that there's an agreement that's professional between an athlete and a sponsor with clearly set expectations, deliverables, so that the company, so it's sustainable. So the company will come back and go, of course we're sponsoring them again. She was also on social media. She did appearances for us. She was at SHOT. She was at the booth, and then she goes, or he, yeah, they were awesome to me. They got me my reimbursements on time. My equipment was awesome. When I had a problem, they fixed it first thing. All those things are components that come in. The key thing is that anyone that we work with, from the shooter side, all the decisions that are made about who they go to, whether they take the deal, money, equipment, however the deal is structured, the ultimate decision is always theirs. So that's one of three major rules. Behave yourself. The decisions are always yours, and you have to honor. If you come on board with us in the middle of a year or something, you have to honor any commitments and sponsorships you already have. Here's a practical example, actually. If a distributor has given you a Glock or a CZ, let's say, okay, and you're shooting a CZ, and then you come and sign on board with us. Now, you know that maybe we work with STI, maybe we talk to them, maybe we don't, who knows. But don't come and say, oh, now that I'm on board with you, I want an STI. Not going to happen. Because that right there will destroy the whole premise of bringing more ethical conduct and business practices to our sport. So, pretty simple. Did that more or less answer that question?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Okay. So yeah, Tim, from that perspective, anybody is free to contact us. We do really work hard to service the clients that we have with the customer base that we have. So there's got to be some logical map to it. A D shooter or someone just starting out, unless unless there's another compelling reason why you're marketable. I mean, that's going to be. I look at it. I look at the decision making, doing what I do, like taking one of Ben's classes. Okay, he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you if you suck.
Yeah, he's not going to be shy about it.
He's not going to be shy about it. And I think anybody that takes your money or makes you sign an agreement or whatever based on a whim and a prayer is they're not doing you a service. If they can give you some advice, okay, a new shooter, what have you won? I haven't won anything. Okay, what have you shot? Well, I shoot my local matches. Okay, tell you what, go out there, shoot every match you can for a year. Every match you can. If you can get to the area matches, get to the area matches. If you have to sacrifice some local stuff to finance the area matches, do that. Or start out locally at your local pizza place, or your, any of the stuff in a small town or a big city. Everybody knows somebody. Tell them you need help. Ask them for $100. Tell them you'll put, Antonio's Pizza or whatever on your jersey. There's no shame. It's business. It's business. And if that $100 means that you got to pay for a hotel room at the match where you won your division at an area match, now you're made. Now you have something you can point to and say, okay, you know what? It was B division or whatever it was. Now there's the aptitude. And by the way, here's how I did it. Okay, well there's the attitude. You were out, you were gunning, you went, you tried to fix the problem by yourself. You're not just going out there looking for a handout. But that's what when I talk to people, that's what I tell them. Start local, talk to the businesses in your area, and just build from there. Not everybody started out. Not even Jesse, not Max. Didn't hurt he went to the AMU, but not everybody started out with TV contracts and everything else. But there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys that have sponsorship because they hustle. Simple fact.
I think that's a good place to end it, actually.
Say again?
I think that's a pretty good place to end it. I'd like to thank Chris for being on, Nick for joining, Tim for having a little input, better than most shows.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chris.
All right.